Nightfall, late dry season. The thorn scrub plains of southern Africa settle into a cautious silence as the last light drains from the horizon. The air carries a dusty scent of parched soil and dry acacia leaves. A faint wind moves through the grass in slow, uneven waves, bending brittle stems that whisper against one another. Somewhere in the distance, a spotted hyena moves alone. Its gait is steady and economical, shoulders rolling slightly with each step, built for endurance rather than speed. The animal travels through its territory with quiet confidence. Its ears turn constantly, capturing distant sounds. Hoofbeats rustling, the shifting pulse of nocturnal savanna. But another creature is already awake. Near the base of a termite mound, a heavy-bodied porcupine emerges from a narrow burrow entrance. Its small eyes adjust quickly to the dark. Long quills, some nearly 30 centimeters in length, rise slightly along its back as it begins its nightly search for roots, bark, and fallen fruit. For a moment, the two animals share the same quiet landscape, predator and prey. The hyena pauses. The porcupine keeps moving to eye in the darkness of the African night. One mistake can carry consequences measured in pain or survival. Shall I begin writing the context/background? Section 1. Yes, night deepens across the southern African savanna as temperatures slowly fall. Beneath a sky scattered with cold stars, the landscape enters the rhythm that defines much of life here. Daylight belongs largely to grazing herbivores and heat-tolerant predators. Night, however, belongs to specialists, animals whose senses and physiology are adapted for darkness. Among the most successful of these nocturnal predators is the spotted hyena, Crocuta crocuta. Despite its reputation in popular culture, the spotted hyena is not merely a scavenger. Modern ecological research shows that in many regions of Africa, hyenas obtain the majority of their food through active hunting. Studies conducted in ecosystems such as the Serengeti and Kruger have demonstrated that hyenas successfully hunt medium-sized ungulates like wildebeest calves, impala, and gazelles. Their endurance, powerful jaws, and complex social coordination make them one of Africa's most formidable carnivores. Physically, the spotted hyena is uniquely specialized for its ecological role. Its sloping back, caused by forelimbs longer than its hind limbs, creates powerful forward momentum when running long distances. Large nasal passages allow efficient oxygen intake during sustained pursuit, but its most remarkable adaptation lies in its skull. Hyena jaws are among the strongest relative to body size in the mammalian world. Bite force measurements have recorded pressures exceeding 1,000 pounds per square inch, allowing them to crush large bones that most predators cannot break. This ability provides access to nutrients locked inside marrow, enabling hyenas to exploit carcasses long after other predators have finished feeding. Yet survival on the African savanna requires more than strength. It requires intelligence and caution. Hyenas possess unusually large brains of carnivores, particularly in regions associated with problem-solving and social interaction. In the wild, they live in complex social groups known as clans that can contain up to 80 individuals. These clans operate within structured dominance hierarchies, often led by powerful females. Communication within the clan relies on vocalizations, scent marking, and subtle body language. But not every hyena hunts with its clan. Young adults, low-ranking individuals, or roaming males frequently travel alone, especially when searching for small prey or exploring unfamiliar territory. Solitary hunting presents different risks. Without the protection of numbers, a lone hyena must carefully evaluate every encounter in the dark, because not all animals on the savanna are easy targets. Some prey species have evolved extraordinary defenses. One of the most striking examples is the African crested porcupine, Hystrix africastralis at first glance. The porcupine seems like an unlikely participant in predator-prey confrontations. It moves slowly. Its eyesight is limited. Its diet consists primarily of plant material, roots, tubers, bark, and fallen fruits. Yet, this herbivore carries one of the most effective physical defenses found in mammals. The porcupine's body is covered with modified hairs that have evolved into rigid quills. These quills vary in structure and length depending on their position on the body. Some are short and densely packed for protection. Others grow long, hollow, and flexible, capable of rattling together to produce a sharp warning sound when the animal feels threatened. But the most formidable quills lie along the porcupine's back and tail. These quills can reach lengths of up to 30 centimeters. Their tips are hardened and extremely sharp. Unlike some myths suggest, porcupines cannot shoot their quills. Instead, they rely on a defensive behavior that has evolved over millions of years. When threatened, the porcupine turns its back toward the attacker that the predator continues to approach. The porcupine may charge backward suddenly, driving the quills into whatever threatens it. Once embedded, the quills can detach from the porcupine's skin. Tiny microscopic barbs along their surface make them extremely difficult to remove and allow them to work deeper into muscle tissue as the wounded animal moves. For predators, this defense presents a serious risk. Lions, leopards, and hyenas have all been documented suffering injuries from porcupine quills. In severe cases, infections can develop if the quills penetrate sensitive areas, such as the mouth, chest, or eyes. Field researchers studying carnivore injuries in parts of southern Africa have repeatedly documented hyenas carrying quills embedded in their faces or legs, visible reminders of previous encounters that did not go as planned. Yet predators still attack porcupines. Because hunger changes the calculation of risk, in dry seasons especially, when prey animals become scarce or widely dispersed, opportunistic predators may attempt to overpower even dangerous prey. A large porcupine can weigh up to 20 kilograms, enough meat to sustain a solitary carnivore for several days. The challenge lies in approaching correctly. Experienced predators sometimes attempt to flip the porcupine onto its back, exposing the vulnerable underside where quills are sparse. Others try to attack the head from the front, though this requires exceptional timing to avoid the sweeping defense of the tail and back. Many attempts fail, and when they do, the consequences can be immediate. Somewhere in the darkness of savanna tonight, a solitary hyena has encountered a porcupine moving slowly across the open ground. The predator pauses in the tall grass, studying the unfamiliar silhouette bristling with raised quills. Instinct weighs the possibilities: food or injury. The porcupine senses movement behind it. Its quills rise higher, spreading like a living shield. The night grows still again. Across much of sub-Saharan Africa, the lives of predators and prey unfold within ecosystems shaped by seasonality, scarcity, and constant competition. The savanna, scrublands, and semi-arid plains that stretch across countries such as Botswana, Namibia, South Africa, and Tanzania support an extraordinary diversity of wildlife, yet survival here depends on precise adaptations refined over thousands of generations. Both the spotted hyena and the African crested porcupine are a product of this evolutionary pressure. Though they occupy very different positions in the food chain, each species has developed strategies that allow it to thrive in landscapes where food availability fluctuates dramatically between wet and dry seasons. For the porcupine, survival depends on persistence and defense. The African crested porcupine is the largest rodent species on the continent, with adults commonly weighing between 10 and 20 kilograms. Its body is built low to the ground, supported by short, powerful limbs that allow it to dig efficiently through soil in search of roots and tubers. Strong incisors, typical of rodents, grow continuously throughout life, enabling the animal to gnaw through bark, woody vegetation, and even bones that it collects for calcium. Porcupines are primarily nocturnal, leaving their burrows shortly after sunset to forage. These burrows are often complex tunnel systems, sometimes reused for generations. In certain regions, researchers have documented porcupine dens that persist for decades, gradually expanding as successive animals enlarge and modify the chambers. Unlike many small mammals, porcupines do not rely on speed to escape predators. Instead, they rely on warning. When disturbed, a porcupine raises the long quills along its back and neck, instantly transforming its silhouette into a bristling defensive barrier. At the base of the tail are specialized hollow quills that rattle when shaken. The resulting sound, a dry, buzzing rattle, acts as a warning signal to approaching predators. This warning is often effective. Many carnivores recognize the sound and choose to avoid confrontation altogether. Field observations in southern Africa have recorded predators approaching porcupines cautiously, circling from a distance before eventually abandoning the attempt. Even large predators such as lions have been seen hesitating when faced with a fully defensive porcupine. Yet the defense is not purely passive. If a predator continues to approach, the porcupine may stamp its feet, chatter its teeth, and finally charge backward with surprising speed. In this moment, the quills become active weapons. The predator's own momentum can drive the quills deeper into muscle tissue, sometimes embedding them several centimeters beneath the skin. The microscopic barbs on each quill create a biological problem for the injured predator. Rather than sliding out easily, the quill resists removal. As the predator moves, the barbed structure allows the quill to migrate gradually deeper into surrounding tissue. In severe cases, quills can penetrate organs or joints, leading to infections, abscesses, or long-term disability. Wildlife veterinarians working in conservation areas occasionally treat carnivores suffering from such injuries. In lions and hyenas, quills have been found embedded in faces, paws, shoulders, and even inside the mouth, locations that make feeding extremely painful. For predators dependent on hunting ability, such injuries can become life-threatening. This is where the hyena's evolutionary strategy becomes significant. Spotted hyenas occupy a flexible ecological niche that allows them to adapt to a wide range of conditions. Their diet is one of the most varied among African carnivores. Studies analyzing hyena scat and feeding behavior have revealed that they consume everything from insects and reptiles to large ungulates weighing several hundred kilograms. This dietary flexibility reduces the pressure to pursue dangerous prey. However, hyenas are also opportunistic. A solitary hyena encountering a slow-moving animal may attempt an attack if the potential reward appears high enough. In environments where prey populations fluctuate, particularly during droughts or periods of migration, such opportunistic decisions become more frequent. Young hyenas often learn through experience. Long-term behavioral studies in the Serengeti have shown that hunting skills develop gradually. Juvenile hyenas observe adults within their clan and practice techniques over time. Mistakes occur frequently during this learning phase, particularly when inexperienced individuals attempt to tackle unfamiliar prey. A porcupine represents exactly this kind of challenge. The animal appears slow, heavily built, and solitary. For a predator accustomed to pursuing antelope or scavenging carcasses, the porcupine's behavior can seem deceptively simple. It does not flee rapidly across open ground. It does not form protective herds. Instead, it stands its ground. For the predator, interpreting this behavior correctly is critical. Experienced carnivores sometimes approach from the front, attempting to distract the porcupine while searching for an opportunity to flip it over. Others attempt quick strikes aimed at the head. Success in such attacks is rare but documented, particularly among large predators capable of overpowering the animal quickly. For a solitary hyena, the calculation becomes far more dangerous. Without assistance from clan members, the predator must control the entire encounter alone. A single misjudged movement, one step too close to the porcupine's defensive arc, can result in immediate injury. And in the darkness of the African night, where visibility is limited and movement must be judged through scent and sound, precision becomes even harder to maintain. Now, on a quiet stretch of dry savanna, a lone hyena circles slowly through the grass. The porcupine has already sensed the danger. Its quills are raised. The tail rattles softly, sending a dry warning into the still air. Each step the predator takes forces a decision: advance, retreat, or test a defense. Neither animal speaks. Neither hesitates for long. Because in the natural world, hesitation itself can carry a cost. The hyena moves slowly through the grass, testing the air with each careful step. Its senses are finely tuned for the night. Large ears pivot independently, catching faint disturbances in the dry vegetation. The nose processes a complex stream of scents carried on the wind, dust, old tracks, distant herbivores, and the unmistakable musk of the porcupine ahead. From the perspective of survival biology, every predator must constantly weigh risk against reward. Hyenas are remarkably efficient energy managers. Hunting large prey requires endurance, cooperation, and precise timing. A failed chase can consume an enormous amount of energy without producing a meal. For this reason, opportunistic feeding plays an important role in hyena ecology. A slow-moving animal like a porcupine may appear to offer a lower energy opportunity compared to chasing antelope across kilometers of open savanna. But evolutionary biology rarely produces simple advantages. The porcupine's defense system represents a form of evolutionary escalation. Instead of developing speed or camouflage, the species has invested heavily in deterrence. The quills do not prevent predators from attempting attacks, but they dramatically increase the cost of failure. For predators, this creates a behavioral filter. Only individuals willing to accept the risk, or those with enough experience to attempt precise attacks, are likely to engage. In long-term ecological studies, researchers have observed that predators often approach porcupines cautiously, sometimes circling them for several minutes before deciding whether to attack. The hyena now performs exactly this assessment. It moves in a slow arc, maintaining several meters of distance while watching for weakness in the porcupine's posture. The porcupine, in response, rotates carefully so that its back always faces the predator. This defensive orientation is not random behavior. It is an evolved strategy designed to keep the most dangerous quills pointed toward the threat at all times. The two animals now move in a quiet circle, predator and prey, each adjusting in response to the other. From a biological standpoint, this moment illustrates a classic evolutionary standoff, an interaction shaped by millions of years of selective pressure. Predators evolve strategies to overcome defenses. Prey evolve countermeasures to survive attacks. Over generations, these pressures refine behavior, anatomy, and instinct. The porcupine's warning signals intensify. Its quills rise higher, forming a layered barrier across its back and sides. The tail begins to vibrate, producing a rattling sound that echoes faintly through the still air. This sound is not merely a reaction to fear. It functions as a communication signal directed specifically at predators. Field observations show that many carnivores recognize the warning and choose to disengage, but hunger sometimes overrides caution. The hyena lowers its head slightly, studying the porcupine's movements. Its powerful jaws, capable of crushing bones, are also capable of delivering a quick bite if the opportunity appears. Yet even the strongest jaws cannot prevent mistake. The hyena steps closer. The porcupine stops moving entirely. The silence between them grows heavier. This moment reveals another important dimension of predator behavior: instinct balanced with learning. Hyenas that survive into adulthood often accumulate scars and injuries that reflect lessons learned during earlier encounters. A quill embedded in the face or paw becomes a long-lasting reminder of a misjudged attack. But younger or solitary individuals, sometimes pushed closer than experience, would advise that I end the darkness. The hyena's muscles tense. The predator is now within striking distance. The porcupine reacts instantly. With a sudden motion, it stamps its hind feet and rushes backward in a short defensive charge. The quills sweep to the space behind it like a living spear wall. The hyena leaps sideways, avoiding direct contact. For a moment, the encounter resets. The predator retreats a few steps, reassessing. The porcupine remains rigid, quills fully extended, tail rattling again with renewed intensity. This exchange illustrates a second critical angle of the encounter: defensive strategy shaped by instinct. The porcupine does not chase predators over long distances. Its defensive bursts are brief, explosive movements designed to force attackers into immediate retreat. Most predators respond by withdrawing. Yet the hyena remains nearby. Its hunger has not disappeared. The predator begins to circle again, slower now, studying every movement with increasing attention. Another dimension of this encounter lies in instinct, behavior shaped not by planning, but by inherited survival programming refined across thousands of generations. For the porcupine, instinct dictates a simple rule: never expose the vulnerable underside. Its defensive posture is automatic. As the hyena shifts position in the grass, the porcupine rotates with deliberate precision, ensuring that its quill-covered back remains aimed directly at the predator. This movement may appear slow, but it is carefully calibrated. The porcupine does not waste energy on unnecessary motion. Every step serves a single purpose: maintaining a protective barrier between itself and danger. This behavior is supported by physical design. The longest and most rigid quills lie along the animal's back and flanks, forming a dense defensive field. Toward the head, the quills become shorter and more flexible. Toward the belly, they thin out considerably. Predators that succeed in killing porcupines almost always manage to access these less protected areas, either by flipping the animal or by delivering a fast, well-timed strike to the head. But such precision requires experience. The hyena now faces a strategic challenge familiar to many predators across the savanna. A porcupine is neither fast nor particularly aggressive, yet its defense demands careful timing. A poorly judged attack can lead to immediate injury. Field researchers studying predator injuries have documented the results of these miscalculations. Hyenas sometimes carry quills embedded deep within the muscles of the muzzle or cheeks. In more severe cases, quills have been observed lodged near the eyes or penetrating the front legs, areas exposed during a frontal approach. Even when injuries are not fatal, they impose biological costs. An infected wound can limit appetitors' ability to hunt effectively. Pain in the jaw or face may interfere with feeding. For a solitary hunter dependent on mobility and strength, such setbacks can reduce survival chances over the following weeks. Yet instinct does not always favor caution. The hyena's opportunistic feeding behavior encourages exploration of possible food sources. A porcupine weighing 15 kilograms represents a substantial meal for a lone carnivore. If the predator believes it can gain control of the situation quickly, the potential reward may outweigh the perceived risk. The hyena edges closer again. The porcupine responds with a louder rattle of its tail quills. The sound is sharp and unmistakable, dry, hollow tubes knocking together in rapid vibration. In many predator encounters, this warning alone ends a confrontation. Carnivores recognize the signal and move on in search of safer prey. But tonight the hyena remains. Another biological factor enters the equation: persistence. Hyenas are known for their endurance and patience. Unlike ambush predators that rely on sudden surprise, hyenas often succeed through sustained pressure. During hunts of antelope or zebra, they may pursue prey over long distances until exhaustion weakens the target. Here, however, endurance offers little advantage. The porcupine does not run. Instead, it maintains its defensive posture, slowly shifting position to match every movement of the predator. The two animals continue their silent rotation in the grass, the distance between them tightening and widening by small increments. There is no anger in this encounter and no hatred, only survival behavior shaped by evolutionary necessity. From an ecological perspective, both animals are fulfilling their roles within the food web. The hyena searches for calories to sustain its metabolism. The porcupine deploys defensive adaptations that have allowed its species to persist despite pressure from predators for millennia. The balance between these forces is delicate. Eventually, one side must act. The hyena lowers its body slightly, shifting its weight forward. The muscles along its shoulders tighten beneath its spotted coat. Its ears tilt backward for a moment, a subtle adjustment that protects them during close contact. The porcupine senses a change instantly. Its quills flare outward even further, expanding the defensive arc around its body. The rattling sound intensifies as the tail vibrates more rapidly. The air between them feels charged with possibility. Predator and prey are now only a few meters apart. What happens next will unfold in seconds, but the outcome will depend on thousands of years of evolutionary design and a single decision made in the darkness of the African night. The hyena closes the distance slowly, each step placed with deliberate care. In the dim light of the savanna night, the porcupine's outline appears larger than it truly is, a low body crowned with forests of raised quills that catch faint starlight along their pale tips. The predator pauses again. For several seconds, neither animal moves. The hyena studies the porcupine's posture, waiting for a moment of imbalance. A shift in weight, a misstep, any opening that might expose the vulnerable front of the animal. Experienced predators often succeed only when timing and position align perfectly. But the porcupine remains disciplined. Its back stays aimed toward the threat. The quills tremble slightly as the animal breathes, each hollow shaft ready to detach if forced into contact. The tail rattles again, short, sharp bursts that echo across the still ground. A final warning. The hyena steps closer anyway, just a few meters away. The predator suddenly lunges forward. The motion is fast, driven by the powerful forelimbs and shoulders that give the hyena its distinctive sloping frame. Its jaws open wide, aiming toward the side of the porcupine's body where the quills appear slightly shorter. But the porcupine reacts instantly. Instead of fleeing, it pivots and charges backward with explosive force. The quills sweep to the space behind it like a living barricade of sharpened spikes. The collision happens in a fraction of a second. The hyena twists sideways in an attempt to avoid the densest cluster of quills. But the maneuver comes too late. Several long quills strike the predator's muzzle and shoulder. The barbed tips penetrate the skin with surprising ease, driven deeper by the hyena's own forward momentum. The predator jerks backward immediately. A sharp yelp breaks the silence of savanna. The hyena retreats several meters, shaking its head violently. Then, Pale quills now protrude from the fur along its face. One has lodged near the edge of the muzzle. Another appears embedded in the muscle of the shoulder. The porcupine does not pursue. Instead, it halts and raises its quills even higher, maintaining the defensive display. The tail continues to rattle, though now the sound is steadier, almost mechanical, an instinctive signal that the animal is still prepared to defend itself. The hyena circles away, agitated. IT paws briefly at its muzzle, trying to dislodge the unfamiliar objects, but the quills remain firmly embedded. The microscopic barbs along their surface resist movement in the outward direction. Every attempt to shake them free drives them slightly deeper. Pain spreads quickly through the sensitive tissue of the face. For a predator that relies heavily on its jaws and sense of smell, even minor facial injuries can be disruptive. The hyena lowers its head and shakes again, letting out another short, frustrated vocalization. But the porcupine does not relax. IT rotates slowly, ensuring that the quills remain pointed toward the predator at all times. In evolutionary terms, this caution is well justified. Many predators retreat after the first contact, but some attempt additional attacks if the initial injuries seem minor. The hyena hesitates. Hunger still pulls at its instincts. The porcupine remains a substantial source of food. Yet the cost of the first attempt has already become clear. The predator's movements grow more cautious now, its posture less confident than before. Still, it does not leave. Instead, it begins circling again, wider this time, keeping a greater distance while watching for another opportunity. The porcupine continues its slow defensive rotation, quills still fully extended. The confrontation has entered a new phase. Predator and prey are no longer testing each other. Now they are responding to the consequences of the first mistake. The savanna night remains silent, except for the faint rattle of quills and the distant sound of insects moving through the grass. The hyena stands several meters away now, breathing harder than before. Its head tilts slightly as it attempts to assess the new sensation spreading across its face. The quills protruding from the muzzle shift with every movement of the jaw, pressing deeper against the muscle beneath the skin. Pain is not unfamiliar to predators. Most carnivores accumulate scars during their lives, evidence of failed hunts, territorial disputes, and encounters with defensive prey. But quills introduce a different kind of problem. Unlike claws or teeth that create wounds and withdraw, porcupine quills remain behind, embedded like rigid splinters with microscopic hooks that resist removal. The hyena lowers its head and rubs its muzzle against the ground, attempting to scrape the quills free. The effort fails. Instead, the pressure forces one of the quills slightly deeper beneath the fur. The predator jerks its head back sharply, releasing a short, strained yelp. Even a small movement now triggers a sharp pulse of pain. Yet the porcupine remains in place. Its quills stay fully raised, forming a dense barrier across its back and flanks. The animal advances only a step or two, maintaining a defensive orientation while slowly increasing the distance between itself and the predator. The tail rattles again, louder now in the stillness. The hyena watches carefully. Despite the injury, instinct continues to push the predator toward opportunity. A porcupine represents a large meal for a solitary hunter. If the hyena could manage a precise strike at the head or flip the animal onto its back, the encounter might still end differently. But pain alters judgment. The predator moves forward again, cautiously this time, stepping to the brittle grass with slower, uneven strides. Its nose twitches, though the scent of the porcupine is now mixed with a metallic trace of its own blood. The distance closes to 3 meters. The porcupine reacts instantly. Without hesitation, it rushes backward again in a short but powerful defensive charge. The quills sweep outward in a broad arc, their pale tips flashing briefly in the starlight. The hyena leaps aside. This time, however, the predator miscalculates its footing on the loose soil. As it pivots to avoid contact, its hind leg slips slightly in the dust. The momentary loss of balance places its shoulder directly within range of the advancing quills. Another impact point, 2 additional quills strike the upper foreleg, embedding into the thick muscle near the shoulder joint. The hyena recoils violently, bounding several meters away before turning to face the porcupine again. The reaction is immediate. The predator shakes its head repeatedly and begins pawing at the new quills lodged in its leg. But the rigid shafts remain fixed, swaying with each movement. The more the hyena struggles, the more the quills resist extraction and a low growl escapes from the predator's throat. less a threat than a reflexive response to pain. The porcupine stops moving, it stands still again, quills fully raised, breathing steadily as the tail rattle fades to silence. The defensive display has done its work. The predator now carries multiple embedded quills, each one a physical reminder of the risk involved in further attack. The hyena watches from a greater distance now. Its body posture has changed. The shoulders remain tense, but the forward aggression seen earlier has faded. The predator limps slightly as it shifts its weight, testing the injured leg. From an evolutionary perspective, this moment illustrates the effectiveness of the porcupine's defense. The quills are not designed to kill predators outright. Instead, they impose immediate consequences that discourage continued attack. For the hyena, the cost of persistence is becoming clear. Another charge from the porcupine could add more quills to the growing collection already embedded in the predator's face and shoulder. Each additional injury would increase the risk of infection or impaired movement. Hunger still lingers, but survival instincts now pull in the opposite direction. The hyena takes a final step backward, then another. The predator turns slowly, limping to the dry grass as it begins to retreat into the darkness of savanna night. Behind it, the porcupine lowers its quills gradually. The rattling tail grows silent once more. The confrontation is over, but the consequences have only begun. The night quiets once more over the thorn scrub plains, leaving behind only traces of the encounter. Disturbed dust, scattered grass, and the lingering presence of danger narrowly avoided. The hyena moves slowly, its gait uneven as it adjusts to the embedded quills in its muzzle and shoulder. Each step reminds of the sudden, painful lesson learned. Not all prey can be subdued without cost. Researchers studying wild hyenas have repeatedly observed similar outcomes. Quills lodged in the facial muscles can interfere with feeding, while injuries to the forelimbs or shoulders may reduce speed and strength, critical factors in hunting or defending against rivals. Even minor wounds increase vulnerability. Infections can set in, fueled by bacteria common in the savanna environment, sometimes leaving predators weakened for days or weeks. In solitary hunters, such injuries are particularly consequential. They lack the social safety net of a clan to help with scavenge food or protection. Yet the hyena is not defeated. Its body, adapted for endurance and recovery, will begin repairing tissue immediately. Hyenas demonstrate remarkable resilience to wounds. Scarring is common, and most predators learn to compensate for minor physical limitations. Over the following days, the hyena will likely avoid porcupines, recalling the pain of quills embedded too deeply to ignore. This behavioral adaptation is vital. It prevents repeated injury, ensuring the predator survives to hunt again. Meanwhile, the porcupine retreats toward the safety of its burrow. Its quills, while primarily a defensive tool, are also a mechanism of deterrence, shaping predator behavior long after a single encounter. Field observations indicate that predators encountering porcupines repeatedly in a region often develop avoidance strategies, selecting alternative prey. This demonstrates a broader ecological principle. Defensive adaptations in prey can influence predator distribution, diet, and even social behavior. The landscape itself bears the imprint of the encounter. Small depressions mark the hyena's shifting weight. Dust scatters where quills struck, and nearby termite mounds remain undisturbed witnesses to the drama. The savanna moves on, largely indifferent to the minor struggle between two individual animals. Each carries its story, one of pain, one of successful defense, but both continue in their respective ecological roles. From a physiological perspective, the hyena's injuries will demand energy to heal. The immune system mobilizes immediately, deploying white blood cells to prevent infection and initiate tissue repair. Field researchers have noted that even minor quill injuries can temporarily reduce hunting efficiency, forcing hyenas to rely on scavenging more heavily until full recovery. For a solitary predator, these costs are immediate and tangible. The porcupine, in contrast, emerges from the encounter unscathed, its defensive mechanisms validated through real-time reinforcement. Its quills have performed exactly as evolution intended, preventing injury to the animal, teaching the predator caution, and ensuring that both species maintain their roles in the ecological balance. Observers have noted that porcupines often exhibit no prolonged stress after such interactions. They return to foraging, occasionally rattling quills briefly at minor disturbances, but largely resuming normal nocturnal routines at the population level. These encounters influence the behavior of both species. Hyenas in regions dense with porcupines often show heightened wariness, altering hunting patterns and foraging territories. Porcupines, conversely, benefit from the reduced predation pressure, reinforcing the success of their defensive evolution. Such dynamics contribute to the stability of the savanna ecosystem, illustrating the interconnectedness of predator and prey behavior over generations. The hyena limps into the darkness, quills still embedded, a living record of caution earned the hard way. The porcupine slips silently into its burrow, quills lowered but alert to the night. The savanna night continues, indifferent, unhurried, yet shaped subtly by the outcomes of encounters such as this. Over the following hours, the hyena's immediate response gives way to slower, more subtle effects of the encounter. Each embedded quill acts as a persistent irritant, forcing the predator to adapt its behavior. Feeding becomes cautious. Sudden movements risk driving quills deeper into sensitive tissue. In the wild, such injuries can temporarily limit the hyena's hunting range, compelling it to focus on easier, less risky prey, such as small carcasses or scavenged remains. Observational studies of hyena behavior confirm this. Predators carrying porcupine quills often adjust their activity patterns, avoiding high-risk confrontations until full recovery. Physically, the hyena begins the natural healing process. Blood flow increases around damaged tissues, mobilizing immune cells to prevent infection. Painful swelling and localized inflammation are immediate consequences. Yet hyenas are resilient. Their thick skin, powerful musculature, and adaptive behaviors allow them to compensate for minor injuries, ensuring survival even when a key hunting tool, the jaw, is partially compromised. Over days or weeks, tissue repairs, quills may loosen or eventually fall out, and normal function gradually returns. The encounter also has social implications. If the hyena belongs to a clan, other members may detect the scent of injury, subtly altering interactions. High-ranking individuals often dominate feeding opportunities. A temporarily impaired hyena may find itself forced to wait longer for access to kills. These social dynamics underscore a fundamental aspect of carnivore ecology. Injury not only affects physical capability, but also reshapes the predator's position within its social hierarchy. Meanwhile, the porcupine benefits from a rare reprieve. Its quills, while costly to produce biologically, have successfully deterred a dangerous predator. The energy expended in defensive posturing is minimal compared to potential cost of injury or death. The animal resumes nocturnal foraging, carefully scanning the surrounding grassland. Ecological studies suggest that successful defense against predators reinforces behavioral confidence. Porcupines that survive encounters with hyenas or leopards often maintain their established foraging routes with little alteration, reflecting an evolutionary balance. Survival through deterrence rather than avoidance, at the ecosystem level. These interactions influence predator-prey dynamics in subtle but measurable ways. Hyenas may shift territories or adjust foraging strategies, reducing predation pressure on porcupines and allowing rodent populations to stabilize. This, in turn, affects seed dispersal and soil turnover as porcupines dig for roots and tubers. The consequences ripple outward. A single encounter between predator and prey can, over time, contribute to the broader ecological balance of the savanna. The savanna itself remains indifferent to the struggle. Tall grasses sway in the dry night wind. Distant termite mounds stand as silent witnesses. Life continues in cycles of hunger, defense, injury, and recovery. The hyena, carrying its painful souvenirs, continues searching for food under the dim stars. The porcupine, uninjured and vigilant, disappears into the shadowed burrow, ready to emerge again when the night grows fully dark. Even in a single encounter, the lessons of survival are clear. Predators learn caution, prey reinforce defenses, and the ecosystem maintains equilibrium. Each animal carries forward not just physical traces of the event, but behavioral knowledge that will shape future interactions. In this way, the intricate web of life on the savanna persists, balanced through a combination of instinct adaptation and the unforgiving realities of survival. Night recedes slowly into the first pale light of dawn. The thorn scrub plains breathe under the rising sun, dust settling on the grass, and the earth still warm from the night. The hyena moves steadily across the savanna, quills still embedded in its flesh, a testament to a lesson learned the hard way. Pain and caution have become intertwined, shaping not only this individual's actions, but influencing instinctive decision-making in the moments to come. The porcupine, now hidden within the safety of its burrow, rests in the ordeal, its quills lowered yet ever ready. Its survival has been ensured not by speed, cunning, or strength, but through a defense so deliberate and refined that the predator's instincts themselves are reshaped. This encounter, fleeting though it may seem, embodies the impartial logic of a natural world. Life and death, risk and reward, caution and recklessness, all measured in seconds, executed without sentiment. In the savanna, morality does not govern behavior. Survival does. Every adaptation, every instinct, every quill or bite is the product of countless generations, a silent dialogue between predator and prey written in flesh and bone. Pain teaches lessons. Defense enforces limits. Endurance ensures continuity. As the day begins, both animals resume their rhythms. The hyena will hunt again, tempered by experience. The porcupine will forage, carrying forward the success of its defenses. Their lives, intertwined briefly in a night of tension, continue in parallel, shaping and being shaped by the ecosystem around them. This is the indifference of nature, profound, precise, and unyielding. It asks nothing of its creatures but to adapt, to endure, and to survive. In that endurance lies a quiet poetry of life, measured not in triumph or failure, but in the endless, unflinching persistence of existence itself.